Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Again, I'm Dr. Saadi Adra. Invite you to join me in welcoming the CEO of Arab News, Faisal Abbas, as we try to understand how one of the most successful news agencies in the region resembles, or not, the life cycle of a program or a project. Ahlan wa sahlan.
Thank you, Dr. Saadi. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I have the distinct honor of being the interviewee and the interviewee, because you also have a lot to say, and I thoroughly enjoyed your speech a moment ago. I just want to start off by a quick comment before we talk about Arab News. We are living in the project management country in the world, the capital of project management in the world. If you remember, in his first ever interview with Al Arabiya News Channel in 2016, His Royal Highness Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was adamant to say that the government now has a PMO. And the interviewer asked him, what's a PMO? And he answered, a project management office. So this is an indicator from the very top as to the importance of the subject that you are discussing today. And in fact, the whole of the kingdom is going through a massive project management exercise called Vision 2030. And we are all very excited. We are all playing a small role to contribute to the bigger picture. But in an ode to project management, there is nothing more exciting than setting a plan and seeing it through the implementation. And I fully and honestly agree with what you just said earlier. You can get the help of consultants to envision or to help draw the strategy, but the implementation has to be done by the actual stakeholders, because there's nothing more exciting for them than seeing the results of what they are planning to do. Now, to talk a little bit about Arab News as a project, I would say Arab News is a 24/7 project management case, even without the relaunch that we did 8 years ago. Why? Because we constantly have to manage variables. Working in the newsroom, I think the closest example or to what it resembles is working in an emergency room in the hospital, because you would be focused on one thing, and then an urgent case comes in or breaking news comes in, and you would have to make a decision on the spot as to where do you allocate resources and your focus, attention, and energy. So that's in the normal circumstances. To add to it is the element of having to relaunch Arab News, and I think we'll talk about the mandate that I had in a moment. But imagine having to run that sort of operation 24/7 a day, while also keeping an eye on another project which is exhausting altogether, having to relaunch the longest established newspaper in the country, and of course being in the media sphere, being a media brand. Yes, your company, in our case, Saudi Research and Media, owns the brand, but the real owner is the user. The real owner is the consumer, and they've given you their trust over those years, so it's not an easy decision to make that transformation, change the look and feel or the direction.
Thank you very much. You just answered half the questions. Specifically, I wanted to ask you about, which is the fourth or fifth question. In project management, we have something called issue management, and in severe cases it becomes crisis management.
Yeah.
And you just spoke about this. Being a news agency in a volatile world around us, lots of things occurring all the time, working 24/7, covering diverse areas, as I believe you physically exist in more than one continent. How do you manage that and still comply to your original policy of what you can say or you should not?
You see how handsome and young I looked when I started the job? So there's a reason why I got so many gray hairs at an early stage. But having said that, if I were to go back the 8 years that I've been now in Arab News and be asked to do the same job, I would actually pay from my own pocket to learn what I've learned. It is exactly what you have described. It is the ability to identify immediately what is an issue that shouldn't be ignored. Because as we all know, an issue ignored is a crisis insured.
Yes.
So, and you cannot turn a blind eye to an element of a breaking news. You know, a certain act of aggression that happened last year turned out to be a war that continued for 6 months until this day. You could have easily said, you know what, it's just another day in a cycle of violence. So you do need to keep what I call a watch list on things that might develop into further issues and allocate people to follow them up and report back to you if the issue has quieted down or has escalated. I use a technique called GTD, Getting Things Done, which has been a life-changing course and program that I've taken. And essentially, to sum it up in 30 seconds, if you look at the functions of the brain, really, the human brain is two functions. You can either, well, you can use it both to either or both to remember and to be creative. The remembering part is painful because nobody likes to forget things, and it takes you a lot of effort to keep remembering, especially with all of the things and all of the people that you meet. And the creative part, which is much more enjoyable and much more productive and brings back results. So the trick is to outsource the remembering part of your brain to handheld devices, be it electronic or, in my case, a Filofax written handbook, whereby you have a very clear division of the things that need to be done today, the things that need to be done in a week's time, the things that are, inshallah, maybe in the future, the agenda of every person that you meet. And if you are diligent and very precise in your note-taking, then I wouldn't say you will never forget another thing in your life, but you will remember most of the things that are important, and that will take away a lot of the pressure of forgetting things. More importantly, it frees up your brain to work on the creative aspects and the more enjoyable aspects of the job, which are the things that bring the awards, which are the things that make you stand out. At the end of the day, you can have a front page of the newspaper with a headline, or you can have it with the headline that will be shared across the world, be on the BBC front pages the next day, people talk about it, share it on their WhatsApp, etc. You would rather be the second than the first. And to be able to do the second, you need to have a very, well, both agile and very systematic approach to management, so that you are able to add your magic touch, or the magic or the dust, the magic dust, to that headline or to that story that's going to make a difference.
Thank you very much. First of all, you remind me of an old quote: what stays in Vegas, what happens in Vegas, stays in Vegas. Nowadays, what happens in Vegas stays on YouTube. So whatever happens becomes part of a living memory. And what you're talking about in terms of collecting lessons learned and putting them into action immediately, this is what we hope all organizations do in managing projects, because you can only become better if you learn from what happened to you, so that you can do better. So it seems you are a good project manager.
I hope so. And I do agree with you about what happens in Vegas no longer stays on Vegas. It actually goes on X, Facebook, Instagram now. And this is another thing that we need to remember. I think it was Eric Schmidt, the legendary former CEO of Google, who said, if you want to do something and you don't want people to find out about it these days, then the best solution you have is not to do it.
Exactly.
So, which puts a lot of pressure on us, because we all make mistakes. And in a newspaper context, how do you apply all of this? There is the only person, Dr. Saadi, and you know this more than me, you can probably give lectures on this, the only person or the only team member or the employee or leader that does not make mistakes is the person that does not work.
Exactly.
It is impossible for you to run a 24/7 operation working with very delicate, sensitive matters, such as working in news, and not do mistakes. And as you rightly pointed out, you can no longer sweep things under the carpet or dig your head down in the sand like an ostrich and hope nobody notices. So the only solution is to abide by the guiding principles that we have as journalists, the best practices, which is the moment you make a mistake, you need to, well, first of all, investigate it. If it's really a mistake, you need to apologize, you need to correct it, and you publish an addendum at the bottom of the story saying this story has been amended due to a mistake, due to an inaccuracy, etc., etc.
Pragmatism.
Professionalism, Dr. Saadi. So people might forgive you for making a mistake, but they will not forgive you for lying, and you need to remember that as a journalist. At the end of the day, we are only human, and what's worse than doing a mistake is insisting on doing that mistake.
Okay, you reminded me when the cardiologist took his Ferrari to the mechanic, and the mechanic was fixing it, and he was proud, I can fix a Ferrari. He said, can you fix something complex like this? And the cardiologist told him, can you fix it while it's working? Because I work with hearts while they are pumping. And I believe this is your case, because you are improving, you are enhancing the operation of the news business as a whole and as an experience while never stopping for a second. You cannot say we are closed for 6 months to give you version 2. You have to do version 2 while you are implementing version 1, or not?
No, 100%. You cannot afford, well, in the news business, there's a saying that says, if you snooze, you lose, right? So you cannot afford, I wish, but you cannot afford to say, listen, this restaurant has shut down for 6 months, come back to us after summer and see the, really decorated new menu, etc. It does not work this way with news. We had to run a parallel operation several times while relaunching the main Arab News edition, while launching the Pakistan edition, the Japanese edition, the French edition, all while we are keeping an eye on the news and running the same operation. And the way you do that is you need to divide the team in a way whereby you tell one side of the newsroom that you are responsible for the daily operation. We're not involving you in the relaunch because we don't want you to be, but because both parts are important, and you need to have that conversations with both sides. The side that's working on the new enhanced product shouldn't feel that they are privileged and better than the people working on the legacy product, and vice versa. Once you have that harmony in the newsroom, you end up with ticking both boxes. You launch an award-winning project, and if I may brag a little bit, because I see some members of my team here, and it's thanks to their efforts that Arab News actually won. Our ambition, actually, when we did the relaunch of Arab News, when we did the RFP, we ended up with a Spanish newspaper redesign agency, who I think are the best in the world. And they asked me if I had any restrictions or special requirements. This is the first time we work with Saudi Arabia, you're an Arab country, etc. Is there anything we should be worried about? So I looked at him and said, you have nothing to worry about from the country, but you have something to worry about from me. And he said, what? I said, if you don't win me the best newspaper redesign in the world, then you've not done the job. So the sky is the limit. Now, it took us about 1.5 years of diligent work of challenging everything that was deemed impossible. Now, the bad news is we did not get the first prize. The good news is we got silver prize, so second prize, at the World Association of Newspapers in Berlin, competing with newspapers in Latin languages from North America all the way to Japan. So this is an example of, and 125 awards since.
MashaAllah.
So this is an example that when you believe in better, when you get the whole team fired up, subscribed to your vision, when you have the support from the board, and you are able to manage both operations, in our case, the sky is really the limit.
So while you're talking, I'm an assessor. I'm assessing you, okay? So there is one checkpoint I need to understand. What about governance? Because you cannot be, Faisal cannot be in every office. You cannot be everywhere. But the news does not wait for you when you are sleeping or when traveling or doing something else. So how can you make sure, and this is very critical, the news business, because one wrong word can make huge problems. How can you make sure that everybody in your organization is aligned to the right policy politically and professionally?
So you raised a very important point about sleep. There has been, I would say, a few years where I didn't get any or very little sleep. But of course, that is not sustainable, and that is not the solution. Being overworked, exhausted, burnt out is not the solution. As many people fantasize about it and put that as a model of what a successful person should be, it's the complete opposite. What you should be is calm, collected, and in control. So to be able to do that and to manage such ambition and several operations, I think we have a simple formula. So I mentioned, for example, we have Arab News Japan, Arab News France, and Arab News Pakistan. We are working on other editions, but we haven't launched them, and we haven't launched them for resource reasons. But resources is not just money. Yes, we would love for our board to say, here's a pot of money, go and launch an international edition. But even if they did that, the key is, so I see myself as an owner of a fleet of ships at a harbor. For a ship to sail, it needs to have the crew ready. And for the crew to be ready, you need to have the captain. So how do you select the captain of the ship that has the flag of Arab News Pakistan or Arab News Japan or Arab News France? There are two elements there. They need to be competent, and more importantly, they need to be trustworthy. You cannot do this because I don't speak French, for example. I say a few words. I don't speak Japanese. I don't say a few words. It's a very complex language. I would love to learn both languages. But to be able to run this in a way that you managed so that I could go to bed at night while it's morning in Japan or while it's morning in the United States, you need to have those two elements, and they complement each other. It is not enough to get somebody who's competent that you do not trust, and it's not enough to get somebody that you trust that is competent. But once you have the two, I genuinely believe you can do anything in life, and you can rest assured that you are watching their back, but at the same time, they have your back.
I have one last question before I have the ending question, and that is, what about the people in terms of, one research showed that one of the most important factors for projects to succeed is not initiation, it's not governance, it's not, it's a happy team. If you have a happy team, then they will make sure one way or the other you will succeed. So can you tell me a little bit more about that, since you're smiling?
Well, I just see some of my team members and they're smiling, so I couldn't help but smile back. So one of the things that I happen to learn is successful teams are rarely organized and rarely get along all the time. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of logic or makes a lot of sense. Because ideally, you want people around you that you can show them or teach them something new, but B, more importantly, they need to be better at you at a particular topic. For example, somebody who's better than you in artificial intelligence, somebody who knows more about photography than you, somebody who knows more about digital solutions and IT than you. And then once there is that respect, that mutual respect, that it's a two-way street, then there is a conscious decision, but that there is, despite all of us respecting each other's abilities, but there is one captain for the ship. And at one point, the captain comes and says, you know what, this is an emergency. I fully respect your abilities, etc., but I need all hands off. I am taking over, and I have my reasons. And we do have that respect, and people understand that by me doing this, it's not a lack of trust in their ability. It's me saying, whatever, come what may, I am taking full responsibility for this, and I don't want you to be part of it. However, that is only in the case of emergency, because if you do that all the time, that means you are micromanaging, and micromanagement has its advantages, but you cannot do it all the time because A, the team will be feeling demotivated, they will feel redundant, and more alarmingly, they will feel that you don't trust them. So having a healthy, happy environment is very important, but also you cannot make it the priority. As in, you know, we are not an entertainment venue. So you need, I think the elements there is appreciation, respect, and more importantly, the team needs to feel that their line manager, and in our case, all our line managers, are working as hard and are fully focused as much as they are. In other words, you lead by example, and you create a culture where nobody feels that there's a job too little or too big. And you know, one of our colleagues just yesterday, actually, you will not believe it, we had a VIP visitor to the office, and we had just ordered a shipment of pens to use to take notes. And we found out that some of the pens didn't work. So one of the colleagues volunteered, although she's a senior journalist, she's like, you know what, I'm going to try all the pens just to make sure that when the guests arrive, we don't look bad. And I really appreciated, I mean, technically, this person writes political analysis and does big interviews, but she did not feel she is bigger than a small thing that would make us look bad in front of a VIP guest coming to visit the office. And that is the spirit that we have at Arab News.
Great. Our time is over, but one last question, quick one. You are working on the sand, barefoot. You stumble over something. You discover a lamp, dirty lamp. You clean it, and suddenly the genie comes out and tells you, I'm not any genie, I'm the news genie. And I give you one wish, the news PM genie, very, very specialized. There's the Harvard. What do you ask him?
In a very counterproductive ask to what we do. We need to acknowledge that unfortunately our job is the business of bad news. And trust me, I would love nothing more than to retire because the world will no longer have bad news. So if that genie comes up, I would ask for one wish and one wish only, for all the wars and the poverty and the grievances in the world to go away, and I'll be very happy to retire then.
I'm very sorry he just retired. Thank you very much. It's been really a pleasure and honor to host you with us at GPMF. And I believe, where's America, Abu Hamad? We need to have now an award for news agencies doing project management, maybe better than us even. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks to our guest, Mr. Faisal Abbas, the Editor-in-Chief for Arab News.